Asking the question if more modes means more fun since 1985, this is Blitzwing. More specifically, this is the, as of now, latest take on the Decepticon Triple Changer. Released in 2022, this leader class figure was part of the second wave of Transformers Legacy figures. Interestingly enough, this is the third modern take on this figure, fourth if you include animated. Like his earlier Titans Return version, this one is trying to be more animation accurate, and I think it does a reasonably good job, though there are a few toy details thrown in for flavor. Articulation is about what you expect from a figure from the Legacy line, lots of universal hinges and swivels, though the armor and back kibble can mess with things. Oh, and as you can see, those giant hands are totally removable. I personally don't care for them much, but they're part of the toy, so I need to address them at least a little bit. Thankfully, the figure looks a little more accurate without them, so you can just set them aside and no one will notice. On his back, we can find his main weapons. We have a pair of blasters molded in dark purple plastic. Simple, but they get the job done. And here we have a sword molded in dark purple soft plastic, but with a blade painted in silver. These can all be held in his normal hands or mounted to the various 5mm ports all across his body. And lastly, we do have his Energon gauntlets. They feel like part of a play pattern that got abandoned before Hasbro and Takara could finish it. It's fun that they're included, but ultimately it just feels tacked on. But let's keep moving. Transformation is very complicated, which isn't surprising at all. This guy's a modern triple changer, so he's going to need a lot of work to get everything in place in a satisfactory way. That being said, I don't think it's a hard process to learn, you just may need the instructions for the first time or two. Fortunately, everything seems to peg or fold into place securely, unlike some versions of this guy. And once we have all his extra bits in place, we have him in his first alt mode, that of a fighter jet. It's not the most aerodynamic thing, but it is close to the animation model, so it's got that going for it. The Energon gauntlets can connect to the back as, I don't know, boosters, but they are removable and not needed. I also have the sword stored underneath, but that was my own idea, not the instructions. Once you got those off, this feels a bit nicer. You still have a giant tank turret on the underside, but at least with the barrel retractor you can pretend it's an extra weapons pod or something. Ultimately, this form just isn't all that strong. It's not a floppy mess or anything, but aesthetic-wise, I'd say it's the weakest of the three. Speaking of which, let's move on to the next one. Again, we have a lot of work ahead of us because of all the engineering that they shoved into this figure. It's not modern masterpiece levels of complexity, but there's quite a bit going on, and it's not like you can skip anything. Be warned though, you'll have to figure this part out on your own, as the instructions do not show you how to get from his jet form to this, his tank form. And no, I didn't mistransform anything. He does in fact have a jet nose sticking out of his front. This is an attempt to make him more animation accurate, which is funny because the animation model was based off of a mistransformed copy of the original G1 toy. A somewhat rarity these days, the tank turret can fully rotate around and lift the barrel up and down. We also can have all these things mounted on top, but they can be removed to clean up the silhouette. Looking at this toy, I think it was built around making the tank mode the strongest of the alt modes. Heck, I would even say it's the strongest of all three modes. Which makes sense, as that's kind of in line with how it was done with the G1 toy. And you know what? I dig this. Silly Energon gauntlets aside, this is a great interpretation of Blitzwing.